Hello everyone, we are back and we are on round 4 of the 2018 Batman miniature game California Championships. These were held back in November. They're a culmination of a series of tournaments that the Sidekicks from California put on. This one was held at Great Escape Games in Sacramento. Let's briefly go over my list because I have gone over this 3 times before. I am using a Mr. Freeze crew, which has no Mr. Freeze. Instead, the boss of the crew is going to be the sidekick Captain Cold right there in the middle. He's brought along 2 free agents. We've got his good buddy Heatwave right there on his left, and behind him he has got Firefly. All the way to the left we have Killer Frost. So this is my Fire and Ice crew. So we've got 2 cold users and 2 fire users. The idea being that they function pretty well together. As far as henchmen goes, we have Prisoner 04, that's the bodyguard prisoner to Mr. Freeze's right. We're looking at him on the left. We have Pipe Prisoner all the way in the back, and we have Little Spark. For equipment, Little Spark has a grapple gun, Prisoner 04 has the cool generator, which is like a whistle, gives him the stop rule, and that's it, because Captain Cold, Heatwave, and Firefly, and even Killer Frost, all their stuff costs funding. So I'm about to talk about where we are in the tournament, so if you haven't watched those other games, go ahead and stop now if you don't want to know how it's been going and watch those other games first. But we are in round 4. Round number 1, I got a pretty good loss, but then I came back in rounds 2 and 3 and got 2 pretty sizable wins as far as victory points go. So I've gone back up the pack. I feel like my placing in this tournament is doing pretty well right now. And me and my opponent both have the idea that we're probably on the equivalent of table 2. We're probably fighting over second place, depending on how the rest of the stuff shakes out. There's not that many people at the tournament this year. I think the person that I lost to round 1, he's been on a real roll. I think he's probably going to win the tournament unless something crazy happens in his game. But I think other than that, it's going to be between me and this guy. So let's take a look at the board right now. So here we are. We're on the Malifaux table. It's this kind of carnival circus type terrain. I've played on this before. One of the local players brings it in. This scenario is going to be the trophy. I kind of like the trophy. I've always enjoyed this particular scenario. So you've got an objective in the center, and I like it on this table because we've got that ring for the circus in the very middle, and so the trophy is going to go right in there and make a nice kind of a dangerous spot because it's raised up and there's lots of lines of sight to it. So whoever's going to go and get that is going to be a brave person because they are going to be a big target. But beyond that, we've also got these bizarre L-shaped deployment zones. So my opponent is going to take the upper left, and I am going to take the lower right. Again, this was a long time ago. I don't remember exactly everything that went down. As far as strategies go, I believe I took patrol, and if I'm not mistaken, I also took sewer maps to let me have 2 people go through the sewers in a single turn. The idea being that I was going to try and really try to invade my opponent's deployment zone and get my objectives tucked way back there. For his part, I believe my opponent took patrol and fake objective. Fake objective is the one that gives 1 less victory point to an objective of mine that he places this strategy on. So my opponent this round is a local player. I played him a number of times. You've seen him in these battle reports before. He is actually using a new crew this time, though. He's playing Organized Crime. Normally he uses his Gorilla Grodd crew. You will see some of the same models that he uses here as well. I'll go over his list real fast and then I'll get back to it. He has got the Ventriloquist, so he's got that brand new organized crime leader, which is fantastic. He also has King Shark, so he has that big free agent in the form of a giant man-eating shark. He has brought High Security Henchman, who has got a grapple gun. He's got a LexCorp Heavy Trooper. He has got Boris, one of the old gangsters. He's got the Pavilion Subject. He's the cheap, fast, 10-point guy. He has got the Tailor, who I believe is the bodyguard with the bulletproof vest, which is always nice when you have a leader who is really squishy like Ventriloquist is. And you have Tyrone Johnson, who is the prisoner with the brass knuckles. Ventriloquist gives bonuses to people who are both criminal and who have the reinforced gloves rule, and Tyrone has both of those. So let's go into deployment right now. So you're looking at the far left side of my L. I've got Killer Frost way off by herself over in that section there. Now I am starting to learn from some of my mistakes. So I've decided that even though I like to have my guys kind of bunched up, I really need to have somebody to cover my opponent's objectives if he places them off where my guys aren't. So I've decided to put Killer Frost on her her own. She operates independently reasonably well, so she's gone there, and which is probably a good thing because high security henchman is creeping over that way. High security has the hidden rule, so he's deployed out of sight over behind that birds, beasts, and reptiles circus car that you see. Here's sort of a crooked shot of the rest of my deployment. So towards the corner of that L, we have a little spark. I'm not entirely sure why I put him there. He's reasonably fast though, so I think I might be thinking that maybe he either is going to support Killer Frost like he did last game, or use the sewer, or just make a beeline through that other entrance towards the trophy itself. He does have a grapple gun, so he's not as restricted to some of that terrain as some of the other people. Unlike his friend, Prisoner 01 there, the pipe prisoner, he's definitely going to try and go through that sewer at some point. Patrolled up is Firefly, so he's right behind the big top there. And off to the right, we have Prisoner 04, Heatwave, and Captain Cold all bunched together. Prisoner 04 is there to provide bodyguard support, and Heatwave and Captain Cold are, well, they're just a good team, so I want them together. Most of my guys are looking to go through the most convenient access to that central objective. I do want to try and claim that thing, but I am a little nervous about engaging a crew with as many numbers as organized crime does. So walking all the way around to the other side of the table, we see my opponent's crew. We have the LexCorp Heavy Trooper. Looks like he's patrolled up a little bit further there. Boris is behind that, get your photo taken here. Looks like a flat. So he's right there moving up in front. Pavilion looks like he's as far left as he can go. He's probably just going to try and run around the outside of the board. Right in the middle we have the Ventriloquist. Looks like he's going to try and do some inspiring shenanigans. Then we have Tyrone behind him. Then the Tailor off to the right. And all the way on the other side, you can kind of see him through some of the gaps in the circus work there. We have King Shark. He is off by his lonesome on the other side of that L. Off by King Shark, you can see I put my ammo and my Titan objectives. I believe my meds are behind the wild animal cage, all the way on the right in the corner. For his part, he's placed his meds over by my group of guys, Heatwave, Captain Cold, and Prisoner 04, off on one side of the L, and the rest of his objectives have gone over by Killer Frost on the other side. So with that, let's get into it. We go into the Bag of Destiny, we draw out a counter, and I believe I'm going to draw my counter first, which is reasonable because Captain Cold is a mastermind, so I get an extra counter there. I don't like drawing my counter first, so I'm going to go ahead and give the first turn to my opponent, and so he's going to have to activate someone. He activates the Ventriloquist, so he goes and inspires a bunch of the guys around him, and he just creeps forward a little bit. So last time I played this guy's Gorilla Grodd crew, I had a real problem with high security henchmen. High security henchmen basically just ran into his objectives, knifed anyone that came near him, and was a real pain in my side. He just accumulated a lot of victory points, and I don't want that to happen again. So even though Killer Frost has got a lot of things that I'd really rather have her do, I really feel like I need to keep high security henchmen off of his objectives. So Killer Frost is just going to run a bit left, and she's going to use her stop rule on a high security henchman. And she's outside of 4 inches of that guy, so he's not going to be in knife range. He's not going to be able to attack her this round. He's not going to be able to use his grapple gun or anything to get to his objectives. So I'm going to throw ice daggers at him, but I'm either going to miss or he's going to make those pings. So I'm basically keeping this guy from doing anything really useful this round. And I'm taking a kind of an expensive free agent away in order to do that, but I think it kind of has to happen. So it's my opponent's turn, and he's going to activate the Tailor. The Tailor is going to move on ahead, keeping within bodyguard range of Ventriloquist. I'm going to go ahead and take my bodyguard and move him to the corner of the big top. Tyrone is going to go and burn a fair few movement counters, and he's going to cruise past both Ventriloquist and the Tailor, and he's going to tuck himself behind that knife-throwing target at the entrance of the big top. It's kind of times like these where I really don't want to activate anyone. I really want to just have my opponent move someone important so that I can counterpunch at him, but I don't really have that option right now. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to activate Heatwave. Heatwave is going to go and move next to Prisoner 04 there. The Pavilion subject is going to move as fast as he can. He's going to take the long way around. He's going to go to his left, my right, and he's going to go to the side of the board there. He's going to try and avoid the big fight that's brewing in the middle of the tent. Captain Cold is going to activate next. Kind of got to do it. So I'm going to move him up. I can see Tyrone hidden behind there. You know, that target doesn't really cover everything. And he is under the lights. So I'm going to take a shot on the move. Why not? You never know how many shots you're going to get. And Captain Cold does have a fair amount of ammo. He can't get more ammo from the ammo crates. But, you know... Some of these shots might be important immediately, and I'm not worried about the pings because as a beam weapon, they're -2 to any ping rolls. So he's going to take a shot on the move. He is going to hit. He is going to wound, and so Tyrone's going to take 2 blood, which isn't terrible. What happens next is he's going to activate Boris, and Boris is going to go around the tent and end up kind of, well, you can see him through the gap of this entryway here past Firefly's wings. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to activate Firefly, and even though I really want... a nice big flame template to go down on somebody and roast a whole bunch of these organized crime guys, I think my opponent is being a little cautious. I don't think he's moving most of these guys as far as he can, and he's definitely not bunching them up. So I don't think I'm going to get these shots. And I am a little worried about Boris. So I do move a Firefly up. I am going to take a shot at him. I am going to hit him. I am going to cause a blood and a stun and put him on fire. Boris has used all his counters, so I think I'm going to have to be happy with that for the time being. But that does mean that I've activated almost all my heavy hitters. So now King Shark feels pretty safe. He is going to go through the sewers. He's aquatic, so he gets some benefits from doing that. And he's going to pop up right in contact with Firefly. That is not where Firefly would rather have that guy. I'm now going to take this time to use my one and only pass for the round, and so my opponent is going to activate the LexCorp Heavy Trooper. He is going to storm forward right in the middle, and he's going to claim that central objective, which I don't really love because that is a lot of victory points. And I don't have anything noted here, but I think he is actually going to fire on the move. So he's going to take some shots, and if I know my opponent, he's probably shooting at Captain Cold. But I think either he misses with all his shots, or my recollection is that I actually got some lucky pings against this laser. And again, that's a beam weapon too, so I only ping on 6s. But I think I actually get a little bit lucky and don't take any damage from the giant robot suit's big laser. So I really don't want my opponent to shoot me with lasers anymore, certainly not at the full rate of fire this next round. And I don't love the idea of him getting all those victory points for that central objective. You can see I'm using my Wayne Tech objective for that central one. Anyway, so I'm going to activate Little Spark. Little Spark is going to use his grapple gun, and he's going to fly all the way into the middle of the board, and he's going to end up in base-to-base contact. It's possible he might have a counter or two to try and use his zappy stick on LexCorp Heavy Trooper. It doesn't matter, I'm either going to miss or I'm not going to cause any damage, so nothing happens there. But I am in contact with both the objective and the LexCorp Heavy Trooper. I don't expect this guy to last very long in that situation, but for right now he's doing his job. So finally, not being able to use any movement counters, High Security Henchman is just going to shuffle his way back towards the center of the board, try and help out those guys over there. And I didn't take a picture of this, but my pipe prisoner is going to go through the sewer all the way to the corner. Now, he's in kind of a dangerous place because I do believe that Ventriloquist can see him with that Tommy gun of his, and I wasn't able to get him close to an objective that I really wanted. It was just a little bit wonky where everything had to get placed, so I don't love his position. In fact, I'm feeling a little bit hairy about how everything is. I don't like where I put Killer Frost kind of off by herself, out of position. I don't like that King Shark is in contact with Firefly, who's already used one of his ammo, and I don't like that Little Spark is just stuck there in the middle of the table by this LexCorp Heavy Trooper. I feel like this next round I could take a lot of damage, and things aren't kind of moving how I want them to. And it doesn't help that my opponent goes and takes the lead in this next round, so he's not going to waste any time. He does know that King Shark is a bit of a glass cannon. He's really good at dishing out damage, but he doesn't love taking it. Anyway, he's going to attack Firefly right away with a whole bunch of teeth and claws. Nom nom nom. He's going to cause 3 blood and 4 stun even after Firefly's Kevlar takes off one of those damage. That's going to KO him directly, so Firefly is out of action for a while. He plummets to the ground, and he falls down by my opponent's meds. Anyway, King Shark is going to get away from all that firepower that's pointed at him, and he's going to bust over to Little Spark, and he's going to surround that guy, which isn't great because Little Spark obviously is not a martial artist, so I'm worried that LexCorp Heavy Trooper is just going to step on him real soon. there's a lot of things that need to happen right now, and I decide that I want to save Pipe Prisoner. Pipe Prisoner does not like getting shot. He's only got that defense of 2, and he is kind of my best shot at starting to get some victory points. So I am going to run over, I'm going to activate him, I'm going to run over to those medical supplies, I'm going to get out of sight of Ventriloquist. Was that the best move I could have done? I don't know, but at the time I'm really worried about my potential for scoring points, and I want to get some numbers on the board. Of course, I have forgotten at this time that those medical supplies are the fake objective, so I'm actually scoring 1 less victory point than I would normally. It slipped my mind. It doesn't matter. That guy needs to go somewhere, and I still do want the points, but maybe I would have moved this guy a little bit differently if I had remembered that. But this is kind of nice to see. In Batman, I often find that I've messed myself up somehow. I've moved in such a way that the thing that I really wanted to do I can no longer do, and so it's kind of nice to see my opponent do this every once in a while. So what happened was, his plan was to have high security henchmen go to the central objective using his grapple gun and just unload all his knives onto my little spark. But the thing was, when he moved King Shark over that direction, he actually, with that giant huge base of King Sharks, he actually blocked off a high security henchman. So the place that he wanted to put him, he can't get to anymore because King Shark is taking up all that space. So anyway, he can't go and stab Little Spark. He's going to go stab the next best thing. He's going to go over to Killer Frost. He didn't like being stopped that round before, and he's going to try and use some knife work on her. She's got defense of 5, of course, because of adaptable. But he does do pretty well. He is going to get 2 shots through. He's going to cause 2 blood to Killer Frost. To a certain extent, I've kind of left Little Spark to his fate, sort of like I've kind of written that guy off already, so instead I want someone to burn to death. My opponent has not used any movement counters to put out the fire on Boris, so Prisoner 04 is going to move on to that stage over there on the right, and he is going to use his cool generator on Boris, so he is stuck with the 2 fire counters that he's currently got, and he's got a lot of endurance, but that fire is going to eat through that pretty fast at this point. So since Boris might not be long for the world, he's going to try and get his damage in when he can. He's going to move up and he's going to take a shot on the move at Captain Cold. He is going to hit and he's going to cause 2 blood to my boss. But Captain Cold has decided this guy isn't dying fast enough to fire. He wants him to die to some cold damage. So he is going to return the favor. He's going to fire 2 shots at Boris. He is going to cause 2 blood with his beam weapon, and he's just going to move off to the right there near those medical supplies, and he's going to crouch. Ventriloquist is going to activate next. He's going to move up a little bit and throw a little inspires around. I am going to pass. I'm not sure why. He's going to activate his LexCorp Heavy Trooper. The LexCorp Heavy Trooper is going to abandon the central objective. He's not going to step on Little Spark. Instead, he's going to sort of use his rocket boots or whatever he uses to get around, and he's going to take some shots at Heatwave because of course Heatwave is a really dangerous guy. So he's going to put 2 blood onto Heatwave, which is not too terrible as far as such things go. But at least I'm making this guy, I'm not letting this guy use his full rate of fire. He does have to use his assault rate of fire instead of just opening up with all the lasers. Little Spark is a little amazed that he is still alive at this point, so he is going to walk around to the other side of King Shark and just bonk him on the fin a bunch of times. He is going to manage to put 4 stun on him, which I'm pretty happy with. But again, I thought this guy was going to be squished quite a while ago. But since Little Spark is still alive, I guess it falls on Tyrone to go and fix that problem. He's going to move up. He's going to manage to put 2 stun on Little Spark. Killer Frost is going to throw a couple of attack counters at high security henchmen. She's going to miss, unfortunately, but she is going to just abandon that guy, and she's going to rush to the center of the table, and she is going to use Stop on King Shark. King Shark is a little hurt now. He's taken 4 stun already, and I want to put more damage on him as soon as possible. And putting the stop effect on him is step 1 in that plan. The Tailor goes and moves up to where Tyrone used to be. And now it's Heatwave time. My opponent has bunched himself up in the center as much as he's going to, so I am going to take a chance here and I'm going to activate Heatwave. I realize that moving him out here is putting him right in the sights of all those lasers from the LexCorp Heavy Trooper, but I think I'm just feeling like the game might be slipping away from me a little bit. I need to claim objectives and I need to down some of these more dangerous people that are threatening me. So Heatwave is going to rush up. He's going to try and tuck himself over to the stands as much as he can, see if he can't get a ping from those lasers you just know are going to come in next round, and I'm going to throw down that fire thrower into the middle. I'm going to put a blood and a stun on Tyrone, I'm going to put a blood and a stun on King Shark, and I'm going to put fire counters on both of those. I don't think either of those guys are going to be able to put out that fire, so I'm going to put down a lot of damage. We'll see what it looks like next round as far as what Heatwave can absorb in return. Tyrone, since he took that 2 blood from Captain Cold in the beginning, he's actually going to go KO, and so he's going to die at the end of the round because he's just going to burn to death. And for the final activation of the round, the pavilion subject is going to rush over and he is going to claim the meds out from under the nose of Captain Cold, or old Leonard Snart wasn't careful enough about where he placed himself, and so he's not contesting that. Boris, through the entryway that you can see there, he's actually going to go KO from all the fire at the end of this round, and he's not going to wake himself up. So it is a new round, and we go into the Bag of Destiny, and my opponent draws his marker, which is definitely not what I wanted. So sure enough, instead of me throwing down another sheet of flame with a heat wave or doing something else very useful, I'm going to have to absorb a bunch of lasers from LexCorp Heavy Trooper. So yeah, sure enough, he's going to go and blast heat wave, and I get super lucky. Yeah, heat wave should probably be dead, but somehow I only take 2 blood from the barrage of lasers that's coming at him. So obviously my opponent's got to be a little disappointed with that, and I'm just feeling really lucky right now, so maybe this game won't go so badly. So I can't count on getting lucky like that again, so I'm going to activate Heat Wave right away. Heat Wave is just going to reposition himself. He's going to throw out another sheet of fire. He's going to catch King Shark, and he's going to catch the LexCorp Heavy Trooper. I don't manage to wound either of those guys, which is a shame. So they're each going to take a single stun and get a fire counter. So King Shark at this point is very hurt, and he realizes this. So he is actually going to retreat away from the trophy. My opponent he senses that this game is close too, so he's going to try and preserve those points of King Shark. I think it's possible that he should have gotten some attack counters automatically just because of Bloodthirsty or Blood Scent or something like that. So chances are he should have been able to throw some damage onto Little Spark. I actually went and bought a King Shark at the end of this tournament. I got my own, and going through his card, I kind of realized some things. So it's possible, this is new for my opponent, you know, I don't think I've ever seen him play this guy before. So it's possible that he should have thrown some attacks into Little Spark, but it probably wouldn't have made that much difference either way. I'm just pointing it out to people for future reference. Anyway, King Shark is not undone yet, but he's definitely hurt, and he's trying to kind of limp away. He's trying to put out the fire counters as he moves away, but I don't think he can put it all out, so he's going to take more damage at the end of the round. I'm going to activate Killer Frost, and so Killer Frost is going to try to neutralize High Security Henchman because that has worked in the past. So she is just going to stop that guy and hang out kind of outside of those nice 4 inches and taunt him. I would say that she also is throwing ice daggers at him, but honestly the taunting is probably doing more harm to him than anything. She's going to miss with those shots. The Ventriloquist is going to activate next. He's going to move towards the center, and he's going to shoot at Little Spark, who is somehow still alive. All those shots are going to get pinged away by that central objective, which is amazing. He's also going to throw around a little Inspire. And in addition, he's going to use Goad to push Little Spark away from the central objective, probably bribing him with something, or maybe his Scarface is actually going to threaten him in such a scary manner that Little Spark decides that he really doesn't want a piece of that. So it's my activation now, and I'm going to activate Captain Cold. Captain Cold can still see King Shark, and I don't really want this guy to get away. So I'm going to fire my Cold Gun, and I'm going to do that nice reliable 2 blood damage. He is still not unconscious, but I am intent on getting that guy. It's getting serious in the middle, so the Tailor is going to move up to help in this big fight that's brewing in the center of the Big Top. And Pipe Prisoner just hangs out, counting the rolls of bandages that he's going to bring back to his crew's base. And then somehow Little Spark has survived this whole round, and so now he's going to get an activation. So he is going to grapple over. He is going to get in base contact with the LexCorp Heavy Trooper, because that's been working so far. He's gotten away with it so long, so might as well keep that guy from firing his rate of fire one more round. And hey, here's Ventriloquist. So instead of grabbing the central objective and getting that automatic victory points, and maybe I probably should have done that, I'm actually going to go for glory, and I'm going to try and beat up the Ventriloquist. Well, I forget that, number one, this is Little Spark, and he likes really missing a lot of rolls. And number 2, he's got his bodyguard right over there, the Tailor. So I don't get many hits through, just bomb my rolls. Doesn't do very well. The Tailor is going to go ahead and take the one hit that gets through. He's going to take 1 stun. It would normally be 2. He's got some rule that takes 1 away. I don't know what it might be offhand. But he does actually get a knockdown, so that's kind of nice. That means that the next round, if I'm around to use Little Spark again, I can attack Ventriloquist, and there won't be a bodyguard who can bodyguard this guy if he's still on the ground. The High Security Henchman doesn't have much he can do except sort of angrily hobble over towards Killer Frost. And prisoner 4 decides that he can't really have the pavilion subject hanging around on those medical supplies, so he is going to use the cool generator on him. It doesn't matter taking away those movement counters, but I do want to get that +1 to hit, and I'm going to throw a couple of those brass knuckle punches at him. I'm going to go ahead and miss. And the pavilion subject does not like that position that he's in. He's kind of seeing the writing on the wall, and so he's actually going to shuffle away a bit, abandoning the objective and that sort of thing. Even as a crazy person, he's got plans and ambitions that he wants to get to in life, and getting beat up by Captain Cold and my bodyguard prisoners is not how he wants to end things. With that, actually, the game is over. We've gone about as far as we can go with the time allotted to us. The big news at the end of the round, though, is that King Shark is going to take more damage. He's going to go KO, and he's not going to recover in this phase. My understanding of the way the rules work is that you take the damage in the beginning of the recount phase, and you take your recoveries at the end. So you can go KO and get up just in this last little section, but he doesn't do that. Now, again, one of the things that I've realized afterwards, and again, I apologize to my opponent, but I've never used a large model before, is that as part of the large rule, you get to re-roll your endurance rules. So if he'd gotten that re-roll, it might have been possible that King Shark could have woken himself up and done some damage in the following round. But as it was, I've still got a lot of counters in the bag. I've got Little Spark in contact with his leader. I've got a big lead on... I have a fairly big lead in victory points at this time, and a lot of his guys are starting to go out of action. So it ends up being a pretty decent win to myself, and that was really close. Even going over this battle report, I'm realizing, ugh, man, this is looking really dicey for a while, but the Fire and Ice crew kind of pulled it out, managed to claw a victory point here and there, and just kind of edge over the organized crime guys in some of the scuffles that were happening across the board. Anyway, again, my favorite game, it was just really close, really back and forth, really tense, and of course the fact that it was the last game definitely helped with that, and we knew we were fighting for a reasonably high position if we performed well, and yeah, sure enough, I did manage to get second place because of that win. The person I fought first round and lost to actually went undefeated through the whole tournament, so he's going to take his championship. He's going to be the 2018 California Championship, and he's going to take it back to Las Vegas. So I no longer get to introduce myself for an entire year as being California's #1 Batman, which is what I did when I won the championship last year. But then again, maybe I can. If he's technically, if he lives in Nevada, then maybe, you know, it goes to the next person to see who's the best Batman in California. Maybe I am California's #1 Batman. I'll have to check with the tournament organizers to make sure if that's the case or not. I may have to change my business cards if that's not true. But it was a fun tournament. There were 4 good games, 4 interesting games against very different crews. I'm pretty happy with how the Fire and Ice crew performed. Again, before this tournament, I had only played 1 game with those guys, and they lost that 1 game. And then after the first round, I kind of thought, these, sure enough, my suspicions were correct. These guys are not doing super well, but man, they kind of pulled into it. I wasn't really shocked that they did well against some of the more elite crews, the 2 Brave and the Bold crews that I faced in the middle, but I was very happy about the victory that they pulled out against organized crime, which had more numbers, and I was a little bit worried about them being overwhelmed, about them not being able to deliver enough damage. But good job, Leonard Snart. Thank you for leading my crew into, to second place, which is not bad. Thank you to the tournament organizer for running the whole thing, and especially considering the difficulties that he had with some of the attendance, some of the prize support. California was really, really on fire at this time. In Sacramento, there were just clouds of smoke. Up where I lived, the fires were not that far away. You may have heard something about it. The travel was difficult. There were delivery problems with some of the prizes. And yeah, so I guess the airports were pretty brutal for some of the people that were traveling distances. I think at this point I'm going to wrap this up. I think I've said all about I can. If you have any questions or comments or anything like that, leave them in the comment section below. More Batman and such coming up at some point in the future, and I will see you on the next one.